Oh, Justice League! Only a couple more hours before tomorrow. I gotta find out when Justice League will first show. I want to be there for the first showing of Justice League, and I'm gonna buy me one ticket, just one ticket, to go see the movie. First of all, why you say one ticket? Why not multiple tickets? Because I'm cautious about this movie. There's a lot of things I see that are parallels to what happened with Suicide Squad. They talk about the strength of this movie being its characters and the story being forgettable. That's Suicide Squad. You think about the advertising and how it kind of changed over time. It wasn't very consistent at a certain point. Yes, it was embellished and it wasn't the same as Suicide Squad, but still, that falls along the lines of Suicide Squad. You think about the executive involvement in the directorial direction of the movie, and you think of David Ayer and Suicide Squad and how Yoshihara saying the movie needs to be 2 hours long. We even got to chop that thing down. And I think of Batman v Superman, what they did to Zack Snyder. I think of what they did to Zack Snyder in Watchmen. So all of these things are cautionary signs. It's funny that the Rotten Tomato score is 48% now, maybe even lower by this point in time. Warner Bros. Did everything in their power to have this movie at least get a fresh Rotten Tomato score, and it doesn't look like it's going to get it. And that's funny to me because they didn't trust in their director, Zack Snyder. And they commanded Joss Whedon to do this, that, and the other, and I'm sure Jeff Johns had something to do with that as well. The same Jeff Johns that did the Green Lantern movie that flopped at the box office. I'm just saying. So, people don't understand it, and they're going to get to learn. And Warner Bros. Is going to learn their lesson the hard way, that Zack Snyder's a special guy for them. That Zack Snyder got people to like Superman who didn't like Superman. It's like, Superman, please. He got people to like Superman. All right? That's how that movie didn't flop like Superman Returns, okay? Zack Snyder got people to go see Batman v Superman. That was not a niche movie like Henry Cavill said. That was a box office success. $800 million. $870-something million. That's the second movie of the DCEU. Nobody has ever done that with any cinematic universe. Any. Zack Snyder comes in. He's a writer for Wonder Woman. Highly successful movie. $800 million. Okay? The only movie he didn't have any hands on anything, he was just a producer, was Suicide Squad. That did well, but it was the emptiest of the DCEU movies. Now, Zack Snyder has to step away from Justice League. Is this movie going to be empty as well? Because if it is, I don't need to watch it more than once. That's why I buy one ticket. I'm excited to see it. I don't know what's going to happen. Now, there are a couple of things I got to say about this movie. One, they said it's fun. If it's Thor Ragnarok fun, I'm not going to like this movie. Secondly, they said it's a mess. The story is a mess. And I'm thinking to myself, story plot is a mess, huh? Then that's what they said about BVS, which means I may like this movie. So I'm fluctuating in between thinking, man, I may really like this movie or I may not like this movie. You know? Because it depends on how they edited the movie so that Zack Snyder's stuff would come out in the fore very clearly, as best as possible, and include all the Zack Snyder elements. So it's very possible that from the feedback I'm hearing, that this movie actually stays a Zack Snyder movie and pretty clear as a Zack Snyder movie. And so it really depends on what I see. I don't know what I'm going to see because I didn't spoil myself watching the movie. I don't know what the movie's about. So if this movie is like Suicide Squad, it's going to be forgettable. I'm going to just have to see it one time. If it is like a Zack Snyder movie, then it's got layers to it. Because every single Zack Snyder movie has a layer to it. That's why it's rewatchable. And that's why on every reviewing, you realize how deep Zack Snyder goes. Because he's a very detailed person. And I know it's going to be a much simpler story than Batman v Superman, first of all. And second of all, I do believe that Steppenwolf as the villain, they say he's quoting a lot of Shakespearean stuff, which is interesting because if he's quoting Shakespearean stuff, that means there's depth to whatever he's saying. But again, people may have missed it, and even Joss Whedon may have missed it. It's possible. We'll see. But what I do know is this, that at the end of the day, if somebody's saying the story plot is messy and the villain is weak, then, especially if it's from a critic who doesn't really think very deeply, I got to take that as pluses. Just going into the cinema. Now, I could be absolutely wrong, and it probably not deep at all, and it's probably an empty movie that's forgettable. And likable characters. If it's that, so be it. But they said that about Batman v Superman. It turned out to be a pretty deep movie. So that's why I'm going in caution. With caution. I'm going to buy one ticket. It's like a sample. And if that movie is good, you're guaranteed to see me in that cinema for as long as it takes to get as much of that movie as I can down my palate. So rewatchability for me is value. So if you're excited to see Justice League, say hell yeah in the comment section below. And on that note, you guys have a great one. By the way, I will give you a review of the movie, a non-spoiler review of the movie tomorrow after I've seen the movie, whether it's one time or a couple times. If it's a couple times, that means you're going to get a non-spoiler review. If it's only once, then it's not worth my time to go see it again. So I might as well just give you a spoiler review like I did Thor Ragnarok one time and just end the story, you know. That'd probably be my parting of ways from the DCEU, sadly. Because it would mean that comic book movies are the usual run-of-the-mill comic book movies, and you really don't need to waste your time anymore watching them because they're just typical comic book movies. But I have a feeling Justice League is not your typical comic book movie. If Zack Snyder's involved and just the way how they're keeping a lid on certain things, it's probably not. So, as much as I'm saying that I would take my walk away from the DCEU because Zack Snyder's the guy that got me in there, and literally he turned around the franchise for Warner Brothers in terms of box office. As much as they talk about Superman Returns was a good movie and Green Lantern was a good movie, it got, I think initially it got pretty good critical reception and it flopped. And they said it was very close to the comics and it had humor and all of that, and it flopped. Batman and Robin flopped when they tried to do humor and stuff. I mean, the only really comic book movie that had humor that did not flop was Suicide Squad. It didn't flop. People loved it. All right. So we'll see what happens with Justice League. But I can't wait to see it tomorrow. I really can't. I'm a little cautious going in. My expectations is it's not the greatest comic book movie of all time. It's not. Hey, I'm not going in there thinking that. But at the same time, because I've seen so much hate towards the DCEU, it doesn't really matter to me anymore what the critics say or what anyone says. I know I'm going to go see that movie. I know I'm going to go see that movie. That's not keeping me away from seeing that movie. But after I see the movie, then I'll be able to tell you guys exactly what I think. And if I need to recommend the movie to you guys, then absolutely you recommend the movie. You know, so I can't wait to see this movie. And we'll see. We'll see. If you're anxious to see the movie, say woohoo in the comment section below. You guys have a great one.